Hello everybody, and welcome to RSL 4. We're here, we're up to number 4. I am Neblime. Here with me is Kraazy. Say hello, Kraazy.
Hello.
And MrWizard.
Hello.
Finally getting the band back together. It's been a long time since I've been on stream with MrWizard as well. I'm good to have you guys back.
It's been a really long time. I'm back. I'm organizing new clan league, so I'm actually going to be playing for a while.
Awesome. We'll plug that at the end as well. I'm really excited about that. But first about RSL, everyone in the chat seems to be able to hear us. Just let us know if you have any problems. Okay, so this is RSL number 4. In this intro stream here, we're going to look at the maps, we're going to look at the format, and of course we're going to look at the players and the groups we're in. So I don't know, guys, I'm pretty excited. I think RSL is going to be even better this time because we have so many players. We got the whack maps as usual, organised by Least. Big shout out to Least. That's the most important part. And we don't have Snipe playing in RSL this time, so it'll be better.
God. That's fair.
It's okay, I took care of him.
Yeah, and yeah, you were excluded too this time. Well, how far did you get last time? I forget. Kraazy actually played in RSL 3 for those of you who don't know.
Yeah, I got to the semis and then lost to cheesy Protoss.
Ah, right. That's a good
Normal
excuse.
The story is old as time.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
Well, it's an RSL tradition, isn't it, that if you 2-gate, you go pretty far.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, sorry for all you Zerg players. We have a Terran slash Protoss, and a Protoss, so we'll do our best to accommodate.
We can talk about Zerg. They just turtle in 2 of the matchups, and the other one's ZBZ. So, like, there's not...
See, it's so much better this way, because we'll talk about Zerg like we know something, but we don't. Sorry, Kraazy, what'd you say?
I mean, we're talking about all the races like we know something. But that's the whole point.
True, you got me there. No, he's right.
Well, actually, Nebulite might be able to claim knowing something.
No, I don't.
I'm just looking forward to a game that can top our double proxy 2-gate on destination.
God.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Alright, well, let's get into it and talk about those maps in particular, right? Actually, no. First, we'll talk about the format. So, there is some confusion I've noticed even among players on what the format is exactly. So, we have our groups, of course. Everyone's allocated into a group for the first stage. And you will play each opponent in the group once. So, you'll do a round robin, basically. And each player, you will pick one map by mutual agreement. It's not detailed how you do that, whether you ban in turn or you both just say, hey, let's play on CB because you like CB. And then the 2 best players in the group will advance, and from then on, the best of 5 start, where both players ban 2 maps to pick the first map, and then it's loser picks from then on until the best of 5 is decided. So, with our starting 64 players, not counting walkovers, we will end up with a round of 24 from that. Actually, that doesn't seem right, does it? For round of 32.
Round of 32.
Round of 32. Maths on stream, even the most basic. And then the best of 5s will begin, and it'll be single elimination from there. Alright, so that's it for the format. Sorry, Wizard, what's she saying?
I'm already looking at the maps. I'm too far ahead. Are we jumping directly into that?
I will go into the maps next. We'll go into the maps next.
Okay.
So
it seems like it is 24.
Maybe we're down to 48. I just know 64 signed up, but they might have been cut down due to non-starters, which makes sense.
Yeah, it's 48.
Well, there you go. That makes sense. So it is 24. I knew I was getting that from somewhere because I counted them and I counted 24, but then we were on stream like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right. But yes, enough about the format. Let's get into the maps. So we're going to try and talk about, I think, the balance on each races, but also things I think newer players have to be concerned for. So let's start with Aztec, which I have up on the stream now. So, fellow Terran player Kraazy, what do you think of Aztec?
I think it's a good map. I think it was used in Pro League for a while, I think, right? And
before we get started with this, do we know which version of Aztec? It's not Neo. It's just Aztec.
I believe so, according to the Discord. Yes.
Cool.
It's old school Aztec, I guess. Because these maps are available on the Discord, and the one you can download there is not Neo Aztec. It's regular Aztec.
Right,
I just realized this is
true.
a picture of regular Neo Aztec, is it not? Oh dear. Because something missing here, regular Aztec does have the Lost Temple High Ground. For those of you who don't know, on original Aztec, there is a spot you can drop tanks above the natural, or whatever else you want to drop there.
Oh.
So sorry, this image is incorrect, but mostly it's good.
Okay. Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Well, that'll
that.
be interesting.
I remember in
Or you can drop
CPL,
High Templar.
one game I went in CPL, my whole plan was just double dropping Protoss immediately, and I like had my one dropship would go to the main and like send the probes to the natural, then I'd drop a tank on the high ground and kill all the probes at once. And I was like sending up both my dropships, like, yeah, this is gonna be great, and then like 15 dragoons just run into my natural and kill me. So yeah, don't overthink it. As far as balance goes, I think this map's very good for Terran versus Protoss because Terran has a pretty easy time, I think, cutting the map in half with patience compared to some other maps, but the reverse ramp makes it difficult in the early game perhaps. So any of you budding Terran players out there, probably try and learn how to do a good siege expand from low ground maybe, or something like that, to try and make it a bit easier.
Honestly, I would go bunker expand on this.
You can
Just,
you can wall low
gasless.
ground and put a tank there. It's not the worst thing. But yeah, gasless could be good too.
Because as a Protoss playing this, I'm going to come in with 2 builds, and one of them is going to be, is he gasless expanding, and one of them is going to be, if he's not gasless expanding, I'm doing 10-15 and just trying to kill him down the ramp. Right? Like, I mean...
Yeah, that's a good point. Gasless on a 3-player map, though, is kind of awkward.
It is.
Proxy.
You're absolutely right.
I don't want to give too many ideas, but mains are pretty big, so DT drops are probably
Oh,
pretty
yes.
scary.
Oh yes, absolutely true.
Well, that's the 10-15 follow-up, is you just hope they didn't start their engineering bay on time after you fought the
Well,
that's
I'm saying-
exactly right. That they should write that on Wikipedia. You just hope.
Well, here's the thing. You know, you have DTs, and Terran can build turrets to stop those. But if you just go around the turrets by dropping them in the main, then, you know, Terran's just like, what am I going to do now?
Strategies. It's a good strategy for newer Protoss for sure. So segueing from drops to Mutalisk Harass, what about TVZ? I'm looking at the natural, right, and it's not the worst, but it's not the best, because you don't have that much space to build turrets, but at the same time, there's a narrow angle for Mutalisk to attack, and the main is just like, don't go in there.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Hot tip for Terran players, it's important that you have a turret basically between the gas and the minerals area at the natural. That's the turret you need to hold off the Mutalisk at the natural.
Yeah, and floating buildings to get vision over the high ground if you can.
Yes, that can be good, but a lot of the time I don't feel like a build can accommodate that. So
Right, that's true. Once you
another
get a
thing-
factory.
Another thing is Zerg has these other 3 high ground bases at the 3 o'clock, like the bottom left and the top left, that they can take. They can be very helpful for Zerg, I feel.
Yeah, versus Terran, they basically have to, don't they? Or not have to.
You can just take
they
the
want
main.
to, because the main's a downhill.
Well, that's not that bad in TVZ though. Lurkers really
Right.
don't care about that.
That's
Lurkers
true.
don't miss.
Yeah, exactly. Lurks don't miss. The only thing is, like, if Terran can
Tell that
execute
to
this, like,
Boxer.
yeah, that's right. This like 1% micro thing where like the lurker doesn't have vision in time and like 1-5 at sprints past or something, but that's some pretty high level stuff. So I think for the most part the main is totally fine for Zerg versus Terran, and the other bases are just a
Right,
bonus.
okay.
More places Terran has to worry about it could be. So it's good as Zerg if you can you know, cast some confusion as to where it is.
This is definitely the map to put it somewhere really fucking dumb and
Absolutely.
weird and unexpected. Like, build it in the natural and just like, ha ha ha, you've scanned like 8 places and have no idea what's going on.
Absolutely. So we have to move on to the elephant in the room that Kraazy and I are avoiding is PVZ, because of course we wouldn't know.
No, I was looking
Should I
forward to this
start?
one.
I
go ahead.
like it for Protoss, I think, but you go Kraazy.
I was gonna say, like, I remember after I switched to Terran, looking back at, I think it was the Pro League game, and seeing a ZVP on this map, and for like once in a while feeling bad for Protoss.
What's so bad about it for Protoss? Like, what I'm looking at is, it's difficult for Protoss to attack, but at the same time, it's quite easy for Protoss to secure a 3rd and a 4th, I feel.
Yeah, but if Zerg takes the other main and natural,
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
kind
true.
of just,
This is a
that's a good
third
point.
base at the other natural defend
Oh.
for the rest of the game map.
Actually, you're right, I can totally see it now, that does seem pretty bad
Because
for
the problem
Protoss.
is the Zerg grows because they have the high grounds. Protoss basically, well, it depends on what time in the game. Once Zerg gets to lurkers and has like more than 5, it gets really, really hard to get up any of the ramps on this entire map. Right.
So what we're saying is Protoss bring out the cheese strats versus Zerg, right?
You don't have to cheese. You have to prevent them from getting another main, right? So if they
But
don't
how do you do
take
that without cheesing? Like, there's no guaranteed way.
if they don't take the natural, you're fine, and you can do whatever you want and play it fairly normally. And
But
just
what if they do?
be really careful. If they do take the natural, then you have to do either something like 2 Stargate Corsair or Citadel before Stargate. I personally think, but I'm not good enough to say that that's like a requirement at all, because if you're just better than them, you're going to win on macro. But it's really a pain if you're evenly matched and they get the main 4th base up. This is one of the few maps I've seen pros go arbiters in PvZ. So like,
wow,
That's what I was gonna
yikes.
say.
that's telling.
I was gonna say I'm looking forward to a Protoss going arbiters in PvZ.
And then the other thing I would say as a helpful hint is, if you at all can, just leave a DT at the what are those bases called? The bases we were just talking
The high
about
ground
for
ones.
TVZ.
I just call them
the high ground ones. And don't let them get lurkers. In
Oh
that
yeah, but that's
unbuildable
the
terrain.
truly unbreakable base, right? This is
That once they have that, because then they can go up to 8 bases and you're just dead.
See, in TVZ, you do have a strategy where you just have like 4 drop ships and you just drop marines everywhere like rain, and you can kind of break it anyway. But for Protoss, yeah, there's just nothing you can do. You just think about
shuttles
attacking
don't do that, and I'm not going to recommend anyone at that level go leave.
I want the 10 shuttle play in PvZ. Do it. All right, well, that's enough about Aztec. Let's move on, because we have a few maps and a few groups to get through. So let's move on to circuit breakers. If OBS will cooperate. Hang on, technical difficulties.
Oh boy, CB.
Okay, it worked.
Warp Gates, I want you to know that there are good maps for PvZ. They're the original Blizzard map.
Where Protoss just builds 2 gates and Zerg cries. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, there's some other good ones. The original island maps where you only have 1 base.
Those 2.
Wow. I shouldn't have got a Protoss player and an ex-Protoss player in here, because there's just this PvP bias now. Oh my god.
I just crack jokes at everybody.
I got a rep Team Zerg somehow. Alright, so circuit breakers. I mean, what is there to say, right?
There's the file name of "If you need to download Circuit Breaker, you're fake." Is that what we need to say?
Yeah. Well, you know what? We should address it though, because this is RSL, right? A lot of people are new.
Right.
Might not know much about it.
Yeah.
I think the elephant in the room with Circuit Breakers every single time it's played is the TVP, and specifically TVP with the close spawn positions.
Yes. So, I will say to Terran players, I do not recommend you try and push through the top/bottom of the map when you're at close spawns. It's actually worse than it looks. But Terran does
It's a lot worse than it looks.
Yeah, Terran does have this Moon only, which is a bit easier to hold than third base on some maps. That's the thing, because it's not a gas base, it affects different matchups very differently. Like in TVZ, favors Terran. TVP also favors Terran. ZVP really favors Zerg a lot more, unfortunately for Protoss. Because I feel like Protoss needs a third gas.
I would slightly disagree with the TVP one.
TVP is interesting here because they can't build on that high ground.
Yes, but we've seen pros are fine with just building 4 hatcheries on the third if they want to go 6 hatch Hydra, and it's perfectly defensible.
Right. No, you're right. It's doable. I don't think it's too unbalanced for Protoss versus Zerg.
I mean, I think this map in general is just quite good for Zerg versus Protoss, though, because you have plenty of bases Zerg can potentially take, as well as other mains if they want. Like, they have so many options.
This is a good map for Zerg.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, poor Protoss. I said I was going to rep Team Zerg, but look at me. Alright, well, let's talk about TVZ then. I feel like there's also the benefit for Zerg that they have a lot of bases to take, but Terran has a very easily secured third base, when minerals are totally fine for Terran, and Mutal Harass is not that good. I feel like the base layouts are pretty easily defensible compared to perhaps some other maps.
Yeah, this is one of the maps where if someone was going to try mech and had decided to do mech instead of bio for the whole shebang, this would be a place you'd really have an advantage with that.
Oh yeah, it's quite easy to split them up as well, because you can just extend out onto that middle, and if you have enough mines and so on, you can block it off pretty easily, just turret everything else up. And I mean, realistically, Terran only needs 1 of the 3 or 9 o'clock bases to win, but it's pretty easy to deny Zerg both of them, if you get into that late game anyway. Obviously, there's early game pitfalls. Jarcino says he doesn't like CB, he says it's yucky. Why Jarcino? What about TVP? So, I did vaguely mention the mineral only.
So I slightly disagree with you on the mineral only being good for Terran. I think it's dependent on spawns. If it's if it's vertical or cross, I think yeah, it's good for Terran. But I think if it's close, like I don't think it really benefits you that much.
Well, I do quite like a 2-base push when it's horizontal close, because if Protoss takes like the 3 or 9, for example, it's not that hard.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about TVP, sorry.
Okay.
So I think if if Protoss is pushing and taking the 3 or 9, it's pretty easy for a 2-base push to take that out, because you just push it out onto the map, you mine off the bridges or whatever, and send a couple tanks down there. I think it's quite strong for Terran. So even in that one scenario where the 3rd base isn't good, I feel like Terran has other advantages.
I find that the Terran pushes to the their 4th base and just takes their 4th base like 2 inches away from my 3rd, but doesn't actually push up that ramp because I can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
A lot of the
I feel
time.
like if
I don't
you
know
have...
if that's just me being bad, but that feels like the best way to get your gas.
Well, of course, if Terran puts their whole army there, you can't really attack into that narrow area. But if you have some kind of advantage, like they split their army or you have stasis or whatever,
Right.
I feel like it's not that hard to bust it when it's close to your production like that. It could work, but I feel like it's dicey when you're close position.
It's sketchy. You're absolutely right.
All right, let's
Your
move on.
advantage is just taking every other base.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next map.
Okay.
Why is OBS doing this? When I try and change the image, I just have to click like 100 times because it's not doing anything. I don't know why. Alright, so match point next. Now this is a... I think it was one of Tastosa's saying that like this really is a bit of an unorthodox map, but it's unique and it's an unorthodox map that's been popular for a long time. And it's considered fairly balanced, I think. Well, I think in the modern area that's starting to fall off, but in the past it was considered pretty balanced. So 2 players...
PvP is unbalanced on this map.
Now Mirror can't be unbalanced. Come on. You can't have an unbalanced Mirror. Oh my gosh. So 2-player map. So beware of those cheeses, and don't try and get away with anything because you get scattered immediately. What stands out to me the most about this map is the kind of like chicane structure you have, where you have to come all the way down to that like high ground pod and back again if you want to get into the north, unless you go through this tiny ramp. And it does depend on the matchup, but a lot of the time that tiny ramp is not really viable to go up and down for either player. So in the early game, you have this quite short rush distance, sort of like Blue Storm, but later on, you really kind of just have to go down into the big high ground areas.
This map suffers from the same 2-player map syndrome that Overwatch suffers from, where the main is big enough that there's a whole bunch of bullshit you can do in the opening, and then there's one high ground that just decides the game.
But each player has one. But each player has their own.
Right, but if you both sit on your own high grounds, then it goes into a macro game. But if either player ever gets on the other player's high ground in any matchup besides, like, ZVZ and maybe ZVP with enough storms...
Oh, I've seen plenty of ZVPs, though, where Zerg...
Yeah, no, most ZVPs, you just die if they get on that high ground.
Okay, well, let me bring in other balance concerns now that we're already complaining about the map. I think it's way too good for Terran. Sorry, you go.
Can I just mention something that I think will get overlooked by a lot of people? Look at the choke between your main and natural, and notice how wide it is.
Yes.
So wide. Yes.
So for Terran players, know that that's there, and know that one side of your barracks is fatter than the other.
Depot to the right, Terran's delight. Just remember
that wide spot is bigger than the weaknesses that Artosis presents to Protoss players every single day.
Wow.
But it's happened multiple times where I put my barracks in that choke and I put it to the wrong sides, and Lings just run around the other side.
You call yourself
that doesn't look like...
Oh, if you're trying to wall Lings, it doesn't matter which side you put it. Your barracks just has to be above, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Oh,
nope,
I see.
It does matter.
Touching the cliff, you mean? Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Because the left side is more open,
yes,
you need to make sure your SCVs can get on that side. Because if you put the left side against the edge of the map, Lings can still go through.
I will say about 9-pool specifically, I don't really recommend doing a Ling-proof wall in general. But what you
kind of have to do it in this map.
Hear me out. If you scout the 9-pool is coming, you just start your second depot.
Scout early on.
You start your second depot to make it narrower.
Scout really early.
Yeah, you can. I think it's fine because you know you're going to scout Zerg immediately. You have plenty of time to react. You start your second depot at the choke to make it narrower so that you can block it with STVs more or less like a normal ramp. It's obviously still not as good as a normal ramp, but it's still manageable. And because you're going to scout Zerg immediately, I don't feel like 9-pool has much stock on this map.
Oh, I'm not saying that Zergs are all going to 9-pull. I'm just saying be careful to everybody looking at this
Fair
map.
enough. All right, let me talk about how Terran is good on this map. Goddammit. So let's talk about TVP. Like Wizard was saying, all Terran has to do is take basically their own high ground. If they take their own high ground and hold it well, and are able to take the 12 or the 6 base, then the game is basically over. It's up to Protoss to make something happen with recalls or maybe carriers. Now, the early game can be tough for Terran, and it's a good map for like flying Reavers in and recalls definitely. But I feel like if Terran can just deflect everything, it's their map to take. It's very easy to split, and like it's not even that hard for Terran to push to the opposite 12/6 sometimes. Because it's not a hard base to kill either. And then there's TVZ, where I feel like it's even worse, because Zerg is so limited in the bases they can choose. And those 12/6 bases are reasonable to hold, but if Terran is doing like a tank push, it becomes impossible.
So what I'm hearing is do the Nablime special of just play an hour-long game and don't attack ever.
That's right. That's how you do
Yeah.
it. Don't forget to keep building missile
I want
turrets,
to
everybody.
just for all of us Protoss players, I can say definitively this map hinges on the high ground, and you have to
Yes.
control your opponent's high ground
Yes.
in basically every matchup, right?
Yes.
Other than PvP, because PvP is weird, but even then, if they get a second base up, just park your fucking army on that high ground.
In PvP,
Right?
is a mineral only any use? I don't really know. Like, do you still want that?
It's not about the mineral only. It's about the fact that they physically cannot get out of that tiny choke
Oh,
without
yeah.
giving you 5 minutes to sit on the high ground right above them.
Oh,
Because the
yeah.
thing is, the distance from the actual high ground that we're talking about to that wide ramp from the small choke coming out of the natural is not that far. And if you get there at all, their goons
Yeah.
just stop moving and do nothing.
Yeah, I can see it.
Because
Oh,
we
gosh.
all know the pain of dragoons shooting up. So, yeah, just in any matchup, if you can control that high ground, you're doing better than your opponent most of the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was all I wanted to say, because that's the entirety of my strategy on this map, is just get up there and shoot shit until they die.
Alright, well, that sums it up for match point. Let's move on to the next map.
Well, I need to represent Zergs for a second.
Okay, back to match point, yeah.
Yeah, so the game's broken, Zerg can't win, and Terran and Protoss overpowered.
Yeah, well, I don't know what to say. I feel like ZVP, you have a chance on this map. ZVP, you can do
Sorry,
it.
I just have to joke.
Yeah, Zerg, if you get on the high ground, you're doing good versus Protoss, I can tell you that much.
Well, how about we go to a map that's considered balanced? Next, we have Silford. Or
The best
Neo-Silford,
map.
more accurately.
Sorry they exist.
Wow. Alright, so it's probably obvious to most people, but again, this is rookie Starleague, so I feel like I should emphasize that those 3 high ground bases in the middle, it's not actual high ground. It does not block vision, nor does it give mischance. All it does is stop units from passing on the cliff path, so it's easier to attack in there than it looks, and it's also hard to build on most of it, so Terran and to some extent Protoss can't defend their bases as well.
And also the minerals and gas are reduced at those bases. Those bases are much less resources than the other
that
ones.
base is so much worse than it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it this map that was kind of inspired by Aztec? And I know it's a way newer map. Yeah.
Yeah,
just
this
for layout
is
in
a
general.
reskin of Aztec that got worked over a whole bunch. Yes.
What? That's a pretty big reskin. How did it change so much? Because this map is really dynamically different at this point.
Yeah, and
it
it's
is
much newer too, so it came out in like a different meta.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is one of the only maps you have that's really modern meta, actually. I mean, you have maps like FS and CB that obviously shaped the modern meta, so they fit in it reasonably, but this is a map that was designed with the modern meta.
Wasn't I don't want to move on too early, but wasn't Polypoid released?
Polypoid
yes, of course,
and
we'll get to that.
Overwatch was.
We'll get to Polypoid. Overwatch was? Are you sure? I thought Overwatch was kind of old. Or am I thinking of Polaris Rhapsody?
I can look that up while
2013.
you guys are talking.
Yeah, please.
2013.
Oh, okay, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. Fair enough. But let's talk about Silver, though, the map we're actually looking at.
Yeah.
Let's give Zerg some love. Let's go to ZVP first. I will say, for Zergs, unless you're already in a dominating position, do not take the fake high ground base. You will die. Protoss will just destroy you.
Yeah.
Or you're going 3 Hatch Hydra. And you
Yeah, I mean, I
I would
guess...
still disagree because it's reduced minerals and gas.
Yes,
like
exactly.
you only get half the gas.
Yeah.
And if you have to transition from your 3-hatch Hydra, you want the best base.
Pretty much the only people I see take that base with any regularity are the Terrans, honestly. I
think it's fine for Protoss, especially in
The
TV
high ground
and
is just
PvZ.
better.
Well, it's hard to get to it. It's
Yeah.
easier for Zerg to deny it.
Yeah, absolutely. The high
I mean,
ground
if you
is
just park
strong.
your army in the middle.
That's Protoss.
I guess
yeah.
I do 8 gate, which gives me a very weird perspective. That's true. You're right.
Yeah. So I think on the whole, I do favor Protoss slightly again. I mean, you're probably gonna disagree, Wizard, because it seems
No,
like
you're
Protoss
right.
is-
This is a Protoss map. That's why I
Yeah.
like it so much.
One of the main reasons is I feel like the natural is actually not that defensible compared to maps like Fighting Spirit and CB, for example, because you have less buildable area and your minerals kind of turn towards the enemy, so it's a bit easier for Protoss to get in there.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, like, I guess I'll mention this for the previous maps as well, with the exception of Match Point, is most of the terrain in the middle is unbuildable.
Yes, absolutely.
So, like,
not so on
turret-
Silphid. There is a reasonable amount of space for Terran to build
Yeah,
turrets.
the dead middle of the map is buildable, and then outside the natural, there's probably like 2 or 3 spots.
Yeah, the
Yes.
bricks are the places where you can't build most.
Well, there's
Even
also
outside the
rocks.
natural, there's unbuildable
Yeah.
grass. Yeah. So there's a stretch
Oh,
outside
I-
the natural, but the middle of the map you have space for turrets, and like the middle only area, plenty of buildable space as well.
Right.
I think it's a good balance where when Terran's trying to push into the Protoss natural, it becomes a bit harder, but it's okay. Terran can set up on the middle of the map without too much difficulty because of that. So I think it's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
One TVP thing about this map is that recalls are quite good as well because you have a pretty good stretch of dead ground behind your main that's quite difficult to stop arbiters from just yeeting in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just a
And
warning
there's
to
big stretches of dead ground by the naturals as well that don't get mentioned quite as much.
It's a bit
Oh,
more
yeah.
awkward to
But-
fly in there usually, but yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, getting in there is a pain, but if you move your army down and put an arbiter back there, there's literally nothing they can do besides build like 8 or 9 turrets. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. Crazy, what were you going to say?
just to the Protoss and Terran players, just keep in mind that mains are definitely smaller than the other maps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you'll run out of space real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be very precise with your SimCity. And one thing that is quite difficult in the top position is using that space to the right of your minerals because it's a bit less accessible for workers. So really make sure you know what you're doing your base layout on this map. Naturally, Zergs, don't worry about that. So you can just spam in that.
I only built 10 buildings total.
Yeah, that's right. Have we not talked about any matchup here? I mean, should we be addressing mirrors as we go? I don't feel like we really should.
I can talk about PvP for a second. The
Well,
only
this is a
thing
flat
that
map, right? That's a big thing. Actually,
Yes,
can I
yeah.
just touch on TVP quickly before that as well?
Go for it.
This is the perfect map for 2FAC. So if you like 2FAC, boom, do it.
It
All right, go.
really is.
PvP, go.
Protoss, there's a couple of great holds. I think Mini versus Last in ASL
God.
6
yes,
is one of the
yes.
best holds of a 2FAC ever
Kids.
that's really worth looking
Absolutely.
at.
Kids, do not try this at home. Disclaimer.
Yeah. So this is totally a 2FAC map, and this is totally a 3-gate goon map, which means it's also a DT map for PvP. So PvP, this map just has like all of the vulnerabilities and none of the safety things. Putting pylons in the fly paths for shuttles is like the critical thing that you must do because there's buildable terrain in all of the fly paths. And you basically can't. Well, it's very dangerous to keep goons back to wait for the shuttle to fly in because often they've 3-gate goon. So be very careful on this map as far as like doing something standard. Generally, it's just better to cheese for PvP.
Okay, Bugs is bringing up, by the way, that in TVZ, this map is quite good for Mutalised Harass. I suppose I agree to some extent, the natural is not good, but the main is like, you don't want to go in.
Yeah,
So,
the main is really easy to do.
I don't feel like
Well,
it's that hard to get a good setup, because it's...
No, I would disagree slightly.
Okay.
Okay.
You have the area in the middle between your main and natural that mutalists like to sit over.
Yes, that is true. That is a bit of a pain. But if
And
you
it's
have your
hard to get
production
your army to
close
know.
enough to that area that a turret can also cover that, I think you're set. Like, the ideal setup is you have your turrets covering that dead ground, the choke itself, and your
Yeah.
turrets.
But they can still kill marines going in and out. So like they might not be able to
Bugs
sit
is
over your
right
rack.
that,
but-
that 12 o'clock is a lot worse than the other two.
That is true.
Right. Yes. And well, we'll also, I guess 8 o'clock has the vulnerability where there's high grounds behind the natural minerals that if mutalisks come in from the right angle, the turrets only get like 2 shots off.
That's true. But if
That's pretty high level.
you can scan for that as well at the right time, if you have enough turrets
Right.
there.
But if you're scanning to get 4 shots on a mutalist, I don't know if that scan's that worth it.
Yeah, maybe. I do it all the time. All right. Let's move on to the next
That's
map.
because you don't use your scans effectively.
Wait, do we want to talk about TVT and put everyone to sleep?
Oh well, Sword did say in the chat that mirrors would be nice, so I guess we're doing that, huh? So. Like Ninjube once said to me, I believe there's 2 categories of TVT map. There's Vulture Hell and Dropship Heaven. I would definitely say this map is Vulture Hell. You can get so much value out of mines early in the game, so Vulture opening is going to be good. But late in the game, it's decent
Can I
for
say
drops.
both?
Yeah, go on.
It's both.
Yeah, I do kind of agree. I think it's Vulture Hell with a shade of Dropship Heaven, right? And it's actually quite common to go split map on this map in TVT. But I think you can definitely do regular Vulture openings here.
Yeah, it's a 3-player map, so for TVT, getting control of the other main is like the thing that you're supposed to do. So I think that's.
I've had many TVT games where it comes down to just fighting over the other main, and with both players trying to drop and build turrets there and so on. All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, we have New Empire of the Sun. We are actually using a new version of a map here.
Oh, we are using New Empire. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone is familiar with Empire of the Sun, I will quickly detail the changes. That obviously they've angled the bases differently with the naturals, and they've increased the bases at 3 and 6. Like there's 2 bases instead of 1, and now 12/6 is an island. Sorry, did I say 3 and 6? I meant 3 and 9. 12 and 6
Is this
an
the one
island.
in ASL?
Yes, it is indeed.
Yes.
Oh god, this is gonna be carrier hell.
Well, this was
Oh yeah.
this was an old map that got revamped. What was it,
Very,
like
very
2010?
Yeah, I think it's older than that actually.
This map is a mess.
It's okay. We're going TVP first. Then let's get it out of the way.
Yeah, let's talk about the monster in the room.
Yeah. So there's several reasons why this is carrier hell. An island, one reason. The low ground 3/9 bases are almost impossible for Terran to defend once Protoss is running around enough carriers. A common way to deal with carriers is pushing before they're out, but the problem is Protoss has this ramp leading up to the natural area, so it's quite easy for Protoss to defend early in the game as well. Not to mention using the ridges in the middle of the map as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Protoss is start bugging him the moment he comes down his ramp.
Yes.
And just keep killing shit and backing up and killing shit and backing up.
Absolutely.
Moving a Terran army across this map looks awful.
Yes, and you can't even 2-fac again because of the ramps. Well, I suppose you could, but it would be more difficult. I think you could potentially still win with a 2-fac.
You can 2-fac at this level, but
Yeah.
using the ramps makes it a lot better.
So I would say to Terran players, just like be on the lookout for carriers. If you can make the 2-base push work, that's great, but at least be prepared.
Yeah, Protosses, if you spawn horizontally with him, just get carriers. It's so good.
Go Reaver into carrier so that you can drop a probe at the expansion, harass the Terran, defend pushes, and tech carrier. Oh god.
I mean, you
I'm
don't
sorry,
need to
Terran
even
players.
do
I'm
the
sorry.
Reaver.
It's
You
true,
don't
but if
even-
you're going to get the shuttle anyway, it's a good way to take the island base. It's a very
Oh,
good
no,
play
no,
because
absolutely.
it also synergizes with carriers quite well.
I shy away from telling brand new players to go Reaver because they
Oh.
can just instantly die.
That's a good point, actually. Reaver is hard to micro.
So if you go Reaver, it is way more important not to lose the Reaver than it is to do any damage at all. Just don't let the Reaver die.
I would also say be careful with carriers because you can get in a lot of trouble if you don't know how to use them.
That is true.
Right.
That is true. So if you're confident with carriers, this is a great map, but do be careful. Well, okay, if carriers didn't exist, how does this look for TVP? I still think it looks okay, because it's kind of hard, again, consider horizontal spawns, it would be kind of hard for Terran to actually get over to those low ground bases, because it's quite a ways to go on the map. That said, it might be a bit too easy for Terran to split the map. You can't build in the middle, though, so maybe not.
Yeah,
Taking a fourth is kind of hard for Terran.
Yeah, Protoss wants to keep
Yes,
Terran
true.
armies split on this map. whatever that means,
Yes.
right? If they go for 4 bases, you just break them at that ramp if you can, or recall into one of the bases or something, and just keep bothering them because it's really far. Remember how hard it is to get units up and down the ramps. If you go up the sides of the map, it's just
don't even try with a Terran army. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Just give up that base and go counter or something. Okay, so
Right.
let's stop talking about TVP. We spent a lot of time on TVP on this map. I think we all agree that Protoss is going to have a good time. Let's talk about ZVP.
Okay.
What do you guys think?
This has the same sort of thing as Aztec, where it's really easy for Zerg to just get wildly out of control, because Zerg can get up and down ramps pretty darn easily compared to Protoss. Not that it's easy for Zerg players to get up and down ramps.
And the more ramps there are, the more places there are to put lurker fields, right?
Right, exactly. So really, Zerg only needs 3 lurker fields to win the game.
But that's too many. That's actually too many. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's been borne out in the modern era that if Zerg can set up 2 locations, it's quite easy for them to split map and win that way. But I think 3 drags them a bit thin.
Yeah. The end of my sentence was get Hydras and Observer Snipe.
Well, of course. But nonetheless, I feel like if Zerg's trying to just split the map and take, like, you know, the whole one right or left side, or like bottom or top, for example, Protoss could potentially like just find the weak spot and bust through. I think that's the most likely outcome in that scenario.
Protosses, don't forget you have access to storm drops.
Oh, yes.
The distance is great because there's that big area where the base is.
Yes.
This is a fairly good map for Corsairs. Not like amazing, but it's worth having more than just the one that is meta to get right now, I think.
Well, how easy is it for Protoss to take a 3rd base? I feel like it's not bad, because as long as you have time to get set up a little bit, it's hard for Zerg to come down that narrow ramp and actually take a base.
Yeah, it depends a ton on spawns. Vertical is kind of annoying. Not terrible, but kind of annoying.
I think as long as you have time to get cannons set up with like a Templar, and you can have your main army on the big ramp, it's totally fine to defend that narrow ramp and just react.
I love you, but getting cannon set up with a Templar when you need your 3rd base in PvZ is a lot harder than that.
It's true. It's true.
Just to remember, we're talking about RSL, so I'm assuming like all of them aren't going to be like completely on top of their army movements.
That
Right.
is true.
No,
That's true.
yeah. If you,
I know
if
even
you-
I'm not
you're
going
right,
to be.
But by
if
that
you put
token-
your army on the big ramp, you're doing pretty good to get a 3rd base. The ramps actually, they help and hinder because it's a pain to move your army around, but boy, does it help that you can just stick the zealots on the top of the ridges in the middle, and the Hydras have to get really close and start shooting, and then you just run down the hill and slaughter them all.
So about those ramps as well, if we're talking about like the difficulties RSL players are likely to face, I would say it's a lot harder for RSL players to attack down that ramp as well. So I would say that is another point in Protoss' favor even.
Yeah, I would agree.
All right, let's move on to TVZ.
I think it's a good map.
Seems fair.
This one's really good for TVZ, yeah.
Yeah, it seems pretty good. The only problem I feel like is the low grounds with double ramp aren't really that accessible for Zerg at even any point in the game. If we're talking about bio anyway. Like, it's going to be quite difficult, I feel like, for Zerg to actually hold them when they're not already in a dominating position. But, of course, you can just pretend it's Fighting Spirit and go take the other mains and play it normally.
Well, I feel like doing that is harder on this map because there's no ramp.
That's true, but it's still totally feasible. The choke is narrow enough.
It's feasible. Sometimes.
If you have 3 lurkers, it's fine.
If you have 3 lurkers, but not 2. Normally you put 2 on top of the ramp, but if you have to put a 3rd
need
one...
3 by a certain time.
Right.
Even with a ramp, Terran will easily bust 2 by a certain time.
Yeah, if I was playing Zerg here, I'd try and avoid letting it get to late game.
Well, hang on. We are talking about RSL level, though. Remember that, though. So 2
Right.
lurkers in a choke is intimidating enough, I think. I don't think we're going to see any, like, really
you're
slick
right.
micro where, like, someone's getting through that choke
This
against
is-
2 lurkers.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a science vessel map where you need a lot of those.
I mean, if we're talking about bio,
not like
right?
tank.
If we're talking about bio, and the question
Yeah.
is you're doing, like, a tank push or you're doing vessel, it does depend a lot on the Zerg's opening. But if I'm looking at it, like, I don't really like lurker play that much more than, like, any other map. So assuming it's Mutalisk, then I think, yeah, going SK is totally fine. But that's less map dependent than you might think. It really depends on the openings.
I mean,
Okay,
I would go more the direction of like I think Terran Mech in TVZ is definitely increasing in popularity, and
Yes.
especially for lower level players.
Yes.
That I would say Mech is probably more like worth considering on any map than Bio is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, in that case, I think it's pretty good for Terran.
I think it's really good for Mag.
Yeah. I'm just thinking,
Sure.
once you get the other main area, it's easy to defend. But how easy is it to get there? Probably pretty easy. It does seem
Just
pretty
creep
good.
up the side.
I would say
'Cause
the
the-
islands kind of favor Zerg a bit more though for that. Like I feel like first
Yeah.
mech, the islands are better for Zerg.
For the long game, yeah, but I don't see the Zergs really having time to go out and take them until you're getting into like splitting the map.
I mean, for all the
I would-
Zergs I talked to, basically
What do
the
you call
best
it?
decision you can make as a Terran player is just go Mech and you win the game immediately.
Sure, as long as you play perfectly.
We have a question about walls for PvC, so I'm going to jump back to that. if that's
Oh
okay.
yes, tell us, Protoss player.
The walls are not great, but they're also not like the absolute worst.
So is the natural
If-
too wide?
The natural's wide, but not painfully wide,
Okay.
as long as you're okay at keep a probe between you and their hatchery, right? Obviously, that's normal advice, that's standard, but you need to worry about it a little bit more because it isn't the kind of thing where if you get one probe to the wall, you can block. I believe it's a 3 wide hole.
Oh, okay, all right. So Protoss players beware. Wings are on the
Yeah.
way.
And yeah. This is a map where if you see a pool before a hatch, I like to be really careful and get the cannon before the Nexus because, yikes.
All right, let's talk about mirrors real quick. So TVT, first thing I'll say is, dear God, this is going to go to battle cruisers. Like, how are you going to get anywhere on this map? Like, it's so many ridges.
Map where
Right?
you just don't attack.
Well, I would say yes, but I would say also, like, let's say you're bottom right, your opponent's bottom left. If you get a tank line on that ridge
Yes.
past the ramp, like, that is, like,
Yes.
I win the game now.
If all things are equal, I feel like it's unlikely either player will get a dominating position, and it is likely to go long. Dropship's obviously going to be very strong here. I'm just thinking of openings. Yeah, like, honestly, Vulture opening does not seem as attractive. I would be totally fine with doing a tank opening on this map.
Not with that little tiny ramp.
Yeah, I'm even thinking of, like, the natural area, where it'd be very easy, actually, to zone Vultures away from the big ramp area, like above the big ramp. You'd be able to take control of that with relatively few tanks compared to perhaps other maps. So, interesting map for TVT, expecting very stalematey type play. Alright, PvP? It's got ramps.
Yeah. This one I am not going to say anything about PvP because I genuinely haven't played it enough to have strong opinions. It's both a flat map and a ramp.
So it'd be weird, wouldn't it? Because you can't attack across the map. If your opponent takes the middle of the map...
And that's why I'm not comfortable having an opinion.
This
is one where all of the implications are required positioning and awareness that people at my level, and especially at RSL level, aren't going to have a lot of. So this plays a hell of a lot like Sylphid to my eyes PvP, unfortunately.
Okay.
But if you can get into the late game, then I have no idea, and it's wild and crazy and scary. Reavers are good because you can take the island. Cannons on the island make the island impenetrable and untouchable because shuttles are bad. So if you can get an island base...
Do we ever see that in PvP? I guess with a Reaver opening we totally could.
What?
Oh, we don't see that in PvP very often, but if you do a Reaver opening, I don't see why not. So yeah, that could be spicy.
It's more of a like, okay, we've been sitting on 2 bases fighting it out for a while. Now I'm going to pick up the third, not like a get a Reaver and pick up the third immediately because you just don't have the money because the units are too tight.
Right.
This is a map where if you know where their army is and they don't know where your army is, you can just annihilate them. Because if they go up a small ramp, you fall on them like a ton of bricks. If they go up a big ramp, you fall on them like a ton of bricks. If they walk through the middle, you fall on them like a ton of bricks from any of the surrounding ramps. So putting observers outside their base and seeing where they're going, very good in all maps, but this map specifically makes it extra good.
So I guess we should stop neglecting ZVZ if we're talking about mirrors, but I think we can sum it up very briefly.
Maps don't matter.
Yeah, there's no ramp at your natural, and it's a 4-player map, so I favor 12 hatch. You know, ZBZ is less map dependent, so I don't think there's that much to say really.
Go practice your muted micro for 12 hours a day.
All right, that's ZBZ. Bam. All right, let's move on to a map that you know, this one easy trick to beat Zergs. Zergs hate him. Sorry, or something like that. Pros hate him. I don't know. This is Overwatch.
Yeah.
So let's talk about TVP first, and then get to Zerg later. How many of you faced carriers on this map? Well, asking the Protoss player.
Once.
I
feel like a
couple
lot
of
of
times.
it depends.
I've done it. You can, but it's not like a great success. It's not Empire of the Sun. It doesn't have the features that make it really powerful. Carriers are plausible because of the many switches from high ground to low ground and some of the weird features on the map, but I really wouldn't, because at this level, if they just get their Goliaths on the low ground and right-click on carriers, things are going to go wrong very quickly.
All right, let's talk about the difficulties Terran has here, because the third is very far away. Yes, and it's high ground, and yeah, you're saying, it comes down to just one high ground. If the Protoss controls it, go crazy, go.
Wait, I need to represent the Zerg player for a minute.
Well, we're talking about TVP right now. We're gonna get there. We're gonna do the less harsh one first. Let's talk about how Terran is screwed, then we can talk about how Zerg is completely screwed, alright? Terran first. It's a Terran stream. I'm Terran, alright? You don't like it, make your own stream. So,
rally your units to the high ground by the third, and then right-click out when his army moves.
And if you have arbiters, oh god, I have nightmares just thinking about that.
Just build as many gates as you can get off 3 bases, and you will win.
I love 6 factories.
On this map?
Yeah.
On this so how do you get up that high ground though?
The third is better for the Terrans on this map.
Have 12 tanks.
Okay, but like, how long is it going to take you to get across the map? If like, A, you're not going across the narrow bridge. B, he's on your high ground with his minimal forces already delaying you. Then you have to get all the way to his high ground. I don't see it. I don't think it's good for Terran.
You don't actually do a 6-fact to get out of to kill him. You do a 6-fact to get onto your own high ground.
I mean, I feel like I can talk from experience, because in my CPL playoff match, I 6-fact on this map and just moved his base in 1.
What build was your opponent doing? They doing like 2-base arbiter?
No.
What were they doing?
It was like 3 gate obs into a third.
During CPL, 6-fact was the new thing that no one knew how to handle, so...
Alright, well, Kraazy, I wish you were playing an RSL so you could put your money where your mouth is. Alright then.
I'll train all the Terrans to do 6-facts.
Let's do the one that's... Let's do ZVP first. ZVP first.
Okay. This plays very similarly to Match Point, with the point that you can really successfully build gates in their main. I would genuinely just get enough units that you can get on their high ground once you have Dragoons out. This is a map where Zergs really aren't going to let you play like that a lot of the time, though. I find I get 3-hatch Hydra most of the time on this map. If you can get to having your 8 gates and having a control group of Dragoons, get up on that high ground and you win.
Yeah, I feel like in the longer the game goes, the more it favors Protoss here, and we have seen players with extremely aggressive strategies here on this map as well. Because there's just not that many bases for Zerg to take at the end of the day. Like the 3 and 9, it's probably not going to happen. Like you're just dreaming, I think, if you think you're going to hold on to those for very long. And yeah, Protoss can take the 6/12 without too much hassle. Like it's not great, but it could be worse. And the bottom left, top right are not bad either when you get into that phase of the game.
Yeah, I personally find it much more difficult to play against either a really sharp 2-base timing or a really long game, like I'm going to 4 bases and I'm going to slowly crawl across the map towards you with 3v3 in TVP. Yeah, I'll say that for Terrans.
Okay, so TVZ. Now, it seems okay at first. It seems okay at first. Zerg's having an okay time. They can take the corner and everything's good. And then it's like, wait a minute, then what do I do? Like, oh.
I love Goliath build. Goliath build.
Yes.
Goliath build.
Let's be explicit. Zerg suffers from the same problem where there's just not that many bases to take and there's nowhere to run from Terran Mick. It's one of the easiest maps to split, I think, against Zerg, really. Because that narrow bridge is just so useless.
just go get 3 bases, Terran,
Yeah.
and don't let them get defilers near your base, and you win.
I mean, if you have enough
Yeah.
tanks, defilers don't even count.
Day by day.
You just need enough defilers, no problem. All right, what about mirrors? Let's talk about PvP.
PvP here is very standard, almost stock standard.
Even with that
until you
bridge?
get what? Yeah, because the units in PvP are fast enough that you just go around most of the time. So the high ground's a pain, but a 2-base contain is not really a contain, because once you have 2 bases, you can get up to Zealots and Archons and Templar are the absolute death of contains. So if they try and contain you, you're contained, admit you're contained, just build a bunch of gates and macro until you have enough stuff. And because once they've contained you, the only way they actually get ahead from having a contain is by taking a 3rd base. The moment they do that, you have an observer at their 3rd base, and you go, haha, he built a 3rd base. I have more stuff than he does, as long as you've been spending your money. And then you just walk out and fight him.
Alright.
Specifically, you want to know if they're going to the high ground, because they can't be both on the high ground and blocking the bridge, particularly, especially if they're using Reavers. So if they're
That
using
makes
Reavers,
sense.
find out where the Reavers are, and then go the other place.
Yeah, I didn't consider the high ground part, actually. I was just thinking about the bridge. Just to lungs in chat, you are correct, but you have to turn that on. And I've done a cast before I turned it on, and the whole thing was lost. I was very salty, and in fact, other casters have made that mistake too. So, yeah, any streamers out there, don't forget to turn VOD saving on. What about TVT?
I think this is the map where non-Terran players will actually not fall asleep in TVT.
Yep.
I think vultures are better than they look. You know, it looks like it's not a vulture map.
Well, there's not really a chance for this game to go like 45 minutes.
You
Because
think?
at most, if you split the map, you got 5 bases on each side.
That's true. That is true.
Really,
I don't feel like
if
split
you want
map is
to take
actually.
a roll, it's very impressive.
I don't
Like
think
if you
split
watch
map
Fighting
is.
Spirit
Sorry.
and you split the map, you're watching an hour-long game, almost guaranteed.
Yes.
Here,
It's
if you
also
split
kind of
the map-
funny. It usually ends up almost exactly an hour. It's like it was designed that way to fit
Pretty much.
human time systems. So I don't really see this game ever going split map anyway because of the
Right.
way the map is laid out. So if your opponent is containing you, they must have the bridge and they must have the high ground, right? And if you break one of those locations,
Right.
it opens up so much options for you that there's no way the game remains static. So either you're contained on 3 bases and slowly dying, and it's not going to be an hour long, or you break out and the game becomes more dynamic and it could go either way. So definitely, I think it would be a more interesting map for TVT. Now, quickly about ZVZ. Let's not spend too
can I-
long in TVT crazy. You know no one wants to hear it. Come on.
Oh, come on, I want one more comment.
All right, go on then. Go on then.
I was just gonna say that I remember watching a Flash vs. Light game where Flash had like 2 tanks on the high ground, 2 beyond the bridge, and Light just GG'd immediately.
Yep.
Yeah, that seems about right. All right, so ZVZ, it's a 2-player map, right? When you've got that nice ramp as well. So, I mean, I probably say this on almost every map, but I really like One Hatch Muta, but that's just me. I mean, what do you guys think of it?
I'm sorry, which map did we just go to?
We're still on Overwatch, talking about ZVZ.
Okay. ZVZ?
I mean, there's not that much to say about ZVZ, right? Because like I was saying, it's
Packrat
not that map
says-
dependent.
Packrat says fear the 9 pool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think 9-pool gas here is probably the go-to, but you do have to mix up your openings anyway. Like, even if there's one best build for a map, you can't just do it every time. Well, you know what? Maybe in RSL you can. We'll see. We'll see what we see.
In RSL, you definitely can.
Alright, so, you know, Circuit Breakers and Overwatch, like the old Honda Civic, you know, they still get the job done. They're good for their time. Let's move on to the, like, you know, sleek new European car that, you know, just came out this year. What do you reckon, guys? Polyvoid.
Huh. Uh-huh. This map.
Now, I don't know about balance, but I think it's a pretty cool map anyway.
Can I start with PVZ? Because this map is
Please.
fascinating, PVZ.
Please do.
Okay, so the defining feature of this map, at least for me and the way I play, I don't know about you guys, is the high ground right outside your natural with a base on it. That formation creates a very interesting situation in PvZ because the Protoss generally has to try and control that at least a little bit, or be pushing to control that once you get through the 3-hatch Hydra hell that is the introduction to this fight.
The baptism of fire of learning PvZ.
Right.
yes.
Once you get out of your natural, you basically have to hold that or be attacking them so they can't be holding that. There are bases everywhere. There are a lot of bases on this map. Not quite as many as some of the super big maps like Circuit Breakers, but it's a lot. A lot of my success as a Protoss on this map comes from rolling one big ball of death around and not letting the Zerg group up their entire army and fight me.
That's all Protoss does, right?
Well, hold on a second. I think this map
specifically really enables that, because if you get like a control group of goons and a two Templar, or one Templar with a lot of storm energy on the high ground outside of either of the bases, you can kind of just sit there, and as long as you have something on the low ground to prevent them from cycling through their units, you can build up an army to break whichever place you've decided to sit, right? Because they can't come out because their army's split in half. Once they get to Nidus networks, this map just becomes really hard, especially if they've gotten control of any of the 4 high grounds in the middle of the map.
I mean, that's not a map statement, though, is it? Is it like, in general, if Zerg has Defilers and Nidus and so on, they tend to get the advantage later on?
It is in PvZ. This map is actually, because of the high grounds, Reavers on high ground do work against Zerg, so you can play long games, but I don't recommend.
Don't Zergs typically take the mineral only as their 4th and rally all their units there?
Yes, because
That's
it's
what
quite
I'm
a defensible position too.
Right. To not let happen, though.
Right, so you're
easier
basically
said than
saying
done.
Protoss shit all in. Like,
Yeah, do a Dragoon all in or something. It's easier said than done.
if you go 8-gate, you should be able to break out of your natural and go push them before they take a 4th.
I mean,
if they
I feel
take
like
the 4th,
it's viable for Protoss to try and bring the game later, though, because it's not too bad, assuming, like you say, you can break out of your natural and take your own high ground, to take that mineral only.
right.
And then the 4th is also not too bad. So I feel like Protoss has options there.
Oh yeah, no, the 4th is great. I usually actually take that as my 3rd, the base.
Really? But it's so far away.
If, like I'm saying, if you park your army on the spot with the minerals, right?
Yeah. Well, look,
There's
the
only
problem
one
I have with what
way.
you were saying before is I feel like Zerg has like a pretty good defensible position with that mineral only, and you're kind of playing into his hands if you make it your plan to bust that. Because presumably Zerg is going to invest everything into defending that one point. Like, presume it's top right versus top left, like top right Zerg, right? Protoss like has to attack through there because it's just too far around the other way. So if Zerg just invests all their defense there, I think they have the advantage.
Yes. So that's great advice for the Zergs. Zergs hold that high ground, right?
See,
but that's what I'm
reference that.
saying. In PvZ, this matchup comes down to control of that high ground. Pretty much, unless it's a 3-hatch Hydra or an all-in.
Alright, let's move on from TVP to TVP. I think it's not as good as it looks for Terran at first glance.
It really isn't.
Like, you have that 3rd is not bad at all. Like, it's pretty easy to take. And there's plenty of bases around for Terran, which in general is a good thing. But the map is so goddamn big. Like, splitting
It's hard to move around.
Yeah, no, it's easy to move around because it's so big. That's the problem. Splitting it, I think, is a Herculean task that's probably not going to be accomplished.
right. So I would just warn Terran players. I remember a game I'm playing in the bottom left, and I take the mineral only, and then I take my 4th in the 6 o'clock. I send my tanks and SCVs to go hold that. So instead of going directly down to the close ramp, they go all the way around to the far ramp, where I just walled off with depots, and they're all derping on each other and not doing anything. And then the Protoss army shows up and kills everything. So
Ooh.
keep that in mind.
Yeah, the pathfinding is definitely a little bit wonky with the bases at the
I will say, despite your anecdote there, the walling off those high ground bases is really effective.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But just keep in mind that Brood War pathing exists.
Keep in mind, Brood War is out to kill you, and if you relax for a moment, you will be punished.
Just know, Terrans in TVP, your biggest enemy is your own units.
Well, what's the way to phrase this in a positive form of advice to Protoss, right? I feel like Protoss on this map, just make sure you keep expanding. Don't forget recalls are very good on far-flung expansions. If you can't get there, recalls can shut those down.
This map looks... Sorry, go ahead, Nolan.
Oh, no, I was done. That was the last thing I was going to say.
This map looks a lot more tight than it actually is and than it actually plays.
Absolutely.
If you can totally get an arc, especially if they look like they're going to push towards you from the mineral only, you can set up like 3 or 4 control groups in an arc right at the bottom of that ramp or not right at the bottom, but on the other side of the bricks at the bottom of that ramp, and walk towards them as they come down the ramp, and generally get a fairly good engage there. And then you can also get pretty good engages when they push down the barrel of one of those valleys. You can come at them from two sides completely.
Yeah, it's just so hard to get across.
Play a lot of mine. Think about the angles that they can come at you from.
Oh, you need so many mines.
Just have to get into one of the weird spots.
Just keep in mind that tank range is always one larger than you think it is, unless they're your own tanks, and it's one shorter.
Absolutely true. All right. What about TBZ?
Good.
I like
for who?
it.
For everyone? Good for the viewers?
For the viewers.
Yes. Good for the viewers. Go mech.
That's just general advice, though. That's not map-specific advice. I think for mech, actually, it's not bad for Zerg, sort of for the same reasons, because there's so many bases to take, and it's quite large. Zerg has a lot of breathing room here. So
I would just say that every Zerg I've talked to disagrees.
You reckon? Really? Oh, I don't know. I feel like if Zerg is keeping up in economy, this map is not that hard to take Terran down just by pulling them out of position, but maybe I'm wrong. But in general, I think, Zerg just needs to keep taking bases, even against Bio, like, make sure you're taking that fourth base, and even sometimes a fifth base, because Terran probably going to secure that third pretty easily, and, like, 4-base Zerg versus 3-base Terran, 5-base Zerg, looking good. So, I just keep expanding, is basically my advice. And for Terran players as well, like, don't stop at that run only, try and take the other base. Because I can anticipate this going late game a lot of times in TVZ, I feel like, even with Bio.
Zerg don't neglect the bases between, what would we call those? The high ground bases that are naturally fourths or thirds.
Yeah, the 12, 3, 6, 9.
12, 3, 6, 9. Don't neglect those, because the little ramps just make them impossible to deal with.
Even though there's two of them. I mean, I would say never take them as a third, because 2 ramps is a disaster, but later in the game, absolutely, it can be good. Another thing I'll say for Terrans is beware the slow lurker drop, because there's that, like, alley behind your base where, the lurkers are making secret deals with the overlords, like, hey, you got any ventral sacks, and, they load up and come in your base and kill all your SCVs. So watch out for that, and the natural 2 can be...
The main is weird for a lot of matchups. It's very long, so there's a lot of space for things to get in where you're not looking later in the game rather than recalls are good.
All right,
top left and bottom right have weird ramps, like just the location
they do. Okay, so what about mirrors? What about TVT here? I don't think I've played TVT on this map.
The high ground, that's all it is.
Of course.
We can move past that, yeah.
Alright, great. Well, TVT is probably the same. If you push towards your opponent's high ground and take it, you're probably going to win the game. But beyond that, it's pretty wide open out there. Put those mines down.
Go Bio.
Look, I think, any vulture opening is good here, because just putting all your mines on the high ground, even if your opponent's going tanks first, it might not actually be able to secure it back. Alright, what about ZVZ? It's a 4-player map and it's got a ramp. What do we think? I think that's just an excuse to do anything, really.
Yeah, there's not that balance.
I think in ZVZ this is the kind of map where you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I would just say that, like, it's a big map, so, like, it's hard to, like, play to your opponent because your builds are pretty much established by the time you scout them.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, close. Packrat's right about the spawns, though. That's a good point. The close spawns are really close.
Compared to, like, CB, say? They don't look that close. Really? Because CB vertical has a really short rush distance. Yeah, well, maybe you're right.
Not as... No. Because CB, you have to go over the big thing. This one's almost a straight line from your natural.
Well, not in ZVZ, you don't. In ZVZ, you go over the bridges, no problem. I'm talking about close vertical, which is the shorter rush distance in CB.
Yeah, you're saying not as much as CB verts.
Yeah, CB vertical is very close.
Right.
Yeah. I don't actually know. Yeah, okay. He's right.
It is a good point, though. Alright, that's all our maps, I believe. So let's move into groups. So, since the race information was not available on Challenge, I just put a coloured dot for every player. Based on which race they are. I'm sure you guys can...
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, I thought it would be necessary. I'm sure you guys can determine which colour is which race. It's pretty much the standard, like, Wikipedia colours even. So, what do we got?
Same as on the server.
Sorry, what's that?
Same as on the Discord server.
Also true. Well, not quite. The RSL one has weird colors. If you go to CPL, it'll be the same. All right. So Group A, we have Waxwayne the Zerg, BD Beans the Zerg, Ochre the Terran, and Afreku the Protoss. Now I know Ochre, but I don't know the others. What about you guys? Do you know any of the others?
Same here.
I'm
but
trying to find out whether I played Waxwayne at DreamHack Montreal or if that is someone with a very similar name. I have no idea.
I assume at DreamHack you were playing StarCraft 2.
No.
No?
We
Wow.
played. Montreal was the
Yeah.
LAN right before everything got shut down.
Oh, I see.
Almost a year ago exactly.
Yeah.
Oh no, let's not get topical. You're making me sad now.
Fair enough.
Yes.
I'm rooting for Okra because he's a L Master Discord friend,
Yes.
homie, person,
Just-
whatever.
You just got to keep in mind the betrayal.
Yes. Cold Walkgate's pointing out in the chat. Okra was a Protoss. He was a Protoss, now he's a filthy Terran. Off racing to play in RSL. Seems like snipe corruption to me.
He actually changed his race though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he
true,
did
it's true.
actually.
He's not just off racing, this is actually race change, that's true, I'm being a bit harsh. So this group's going to be a good mix of matchups at least.
Yeah, I like the mix of matchups. That's a good point. This will be fun to watch.
Alright, well, any further information on the players, let's move to the next one. We have... Yes.
Well, good to meet you. Welcome.
So, we do have Melina, we have QuakeCom, Snaky Pouts, and one walkover already. I assume they just didn't check in or withdrew or whatever. So this should be a group of 3.
Yep.
So you go.
Should I break it? Sorry.
You're going.
Livy has dropped out.
Oh, so it's the Melina, Snaky Pouts. Well, actually, it doesn't even matter. There's both advanced. Do they even still play?
I don't know.
They should still play. I want to watch.
I can
That's-
confirm Cold War Gates. QuakeCom is Zerg in the RSL Discord, so I don't know if they're just playing Zerg in RSL or what's going on with that.
Yeah, she is Zerg. She played Protoss in CPL, but switched to Zerg midway
Right,
through, I think.
But she's out for this one, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so Group B is decided. Melina and Snaky Pouts advance. By the way, some quick people have already actually been playing in their groups, but for this stream we're going to ignore all results.
Yeah.
So, Group C. We have the Terran Monochrome Morgan, the Terran SOG _ Attila. I don't know what race this person plays, I could not find any information. Roommate Ferrari, and Zerg Fanta _ RN.
At least needs to get on it. I asked him yesterday to look at him
Right, so are you talking about the roles in the Discord or on the challenge? Because,
in the Discord.
yeah, there's a lot of people about races, but let's not be too hard on Lise now. But either way, I could not find
Oh,
out.
come on, it's fun.
Poor Lise.
I really hope you keep it.
Well, he did let you play in RSL last season, so it probably should be hard on him.
Yeah,
That's
he,
fair.
he did it so I could hate cheese even more.
Alright, so I hope Roommate Ferrari's Protoss to even race us out. But I have to admit, I don't know any of these players. Attila rings a bell, I just suppose over if you know him, do you?
CPL? Yeah.
I
Played in
don't
CPL.
I don't know if he's even in the CPL Discord, I gotta check. He did play in CPL?
I think so. I have a vague memory of casting something, though that's not.
Well, he's in the
Necessary.
CPL Discord, so you're probably right about that, actually. Alright, cool. So maybe
Yeah.
he's a bit more experienced with tournament play. But other
Yeah,
than that,
I would. If I remember his play correctly, I would give him favorite to move out first. But that's all I know.
Monochrome,
Ooh.
yeah, the top two, Monochrome and Attila, are both in CPL.
Okay, alright. So yeah, again, it might matter a
Be an
bit more of
interesting
playing in a serious situation experience. But yeah, I think a group of mostly unknown players there, so consider it their debut. Alright, next, Group D, we have Unknown Race Marianne, aka Barbarian. Slayer, he is playing Terran for RSL, I'm pretty sure. Unknown Race Galula,
Yep.
and Zerg, Slow Zerg. You know, when I looked at that name, I'm like, they better be Zerg or I'm going to be mad. And luckily they were.
So, Slowzerg is best known for complaining in the Terran Help channel.
Continuously.
And Slayer's best known for asking for help in the Terran Help channel. Slayer has been
Yeah,
asking for a
Slayer.
lot of help.
Wait,
and-
Slayer's working really hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll try not to be biased because I've been helping him a decent amount.
Same.
but-
I think he's getting help from all sources. So honestly, no, I'm going to be biased as hell. I think Slayer's going to crush this group with the amount he's playing. He's just going to like chew him up and spit him out.
I mean, I told him
I
to
want
do live
Slayer
build
to be
TVC,
closer
so
just for the satisfaction of knowing that the person who's being polite and asking for help beats the person who's complaining.
Right.
I'm just gonna.
Crazy, he asked me the same thing, and I said, you do what you want to do. I didn't say do Goliath build. I said do bio if you like.
I said do Goliath build.
Oh my gosh.
We know.
Alright, I hope these two unknown ones are actually playing too. 'cause,
Barbarian is playing Zerg.
Oh, thank you for that.
Okay.
Well, good thing Slayer's been practicing
And
TVZ
yeah,
then.
so it's 3 Zergs and Slayer. So Slayer
Wait,
should be able
Galula
to-
is Zerg as well?
Packrat is reporting in the chat, being a legend.
Okay, nice, nice.
So that makes it easier for Slayer. All he's got to do is the Goliath build.
Yeah, easy. Well, the Zergs have to worry about 2 matchups.
Yeah.
Well, at least they won't have to spend very much time playing all the ZVZs, huh?
We
Yeah.
appreciate you, Packrat.
Where is my... There it is. Alright, Group E. So, I have the Zerg El Pinguino, the Zerg Marble House, Unknown Race Santa Rev, and Zerg Imp. Packrat, are you the god of races? Do you know which race he's playing to? Oh, you're updating it. Wait, are you doing admin for RSL?
He is.
Oh, he's Liquipedia. Oh, nice, nice. I guess Zerg's just a popular race. Nothing wrong with that. So is this the ZVZ group? All ZVZ?
I
all
hope
day?
so. If I hope that Morning Fire is a Zerg, just because that would make this group very fun to watch, and I can be done with it in like 20 minutes.
Group E for extremely fast.
I do know El Pinguino played in the last season of CPL.
He's very
So-
good. I'd favorite him to get out first.
Oh
again,
yeah, I
'cause
did
he's-
know he played, but I hadn't seen any of his plays, so I wasn't sure. Okay, well, little to say about that group. I don't think we know the players that well. Let's move on to Group F. We have Lina Shot, or is it Lana is Hot, I guess, probably, as the Protoss.
Oh boy, this group is cool.
NCX playing Terran, Bugs Bunny the Zerg, and Inferno Coith as the Zerg. So I gotta plug Bugs Bunny as a fellow Australian. I'll be rooting for him, no doubt. He's been practicing quite a lot as well, so I have high hopes. NCX I thought was pretty good though, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm actually I'm sorry NCX if you're not good because I haven't played your Terran very much. But if I remember correctly, he was a tier 2 random player.
It's
in
win-win for
CPL.
him though, because if he's too good for RSL, it's too good for RSL, nice. But if he's bad enough, then he gets to play in RSL, so don't feel bad.
Right. No, yeah. So that's like actually somewhat shocking to me because I remember playing him on him being significantly better than me at Protoss. So, yeah, cool if you're good. Sorry for calling you out like that, but like,
No, I want to call him out. I mean, like I said, I'm rooting for Bugs, but I expect NCX to be flawless in this group, to be honest. Based on
yeah,
what I've seen from
he's
before.
I would put him if he's actually playing. I'd put him as a favorite to win the tournament.
Yeah, that might be a good point actually. But there are a lot of players I don't know. So... Sorry, go on.
Right. That's true.
Jeez, him! It took me down last year.
That's true.
All right,
Bugs-
2-Hatch Lurker, Zergs, take
Just
him out.
hit him with the 9 pool. Hit him with the 4 pool. You got it.
2-Hatch Lurker, I'm telling you, that's the scourge of RSL. Don't worry about this pool bullshit.
That's fair.
All right, Group
Is
G.
that it?
No,
Oh,
there's
we
many
have
more.
more.
We have up to Group L. So Group G,
Wow.
we have
Yep.
Jonah, aka
I gotta get on
Seeds,
those race
as
numbers.
is we have Aphazar, Unknown Race, Pork Raven, Unknown Race, and Fancy Hyperlist as Zerg. Now, Fancy is also an Australian, so once again, has my support. According to Packrat, NCX did meet the MR requirement. Well, we'll see. Packrat, do you know the race of these unknown players? So this could be another ZVZ group, although I guess it's not that likely. Aphazar is Terran. Okay, so there is at least one Terran to mix things up in there.
I like the number of TVZs we're getting because this map pool is wild for TVZ. So I'm a big fan of that. I hope they don't all play on Fighting Spirit.
Yeah, so I will say about Fancy, because I know him a bit better, you know, I think he has decent mechanics, but I don't know if he's practicing that hard, so we'll see. Honestly,
Fair enough.
whoever just, like, practices, like, 5 games on each map will have a good chance of advancing, really.
you are absolutely correct. Yes,
Yeah, it's a big advantage if you know their map and your opponent doesn't. I remember there was even a game in CPL where one guy was like, oh, I thought this was Circuit Breakers or something, and, like, it was the wrong map, and they lost.
Yeah,
So it happens.
yeah.
Alright, so moving on to Group H, we have Unknown Race Maverick, we have Unknown Race Top Rookie, although I thought that was Zerg, I might be wrong about that one, and we have Protoss Jester, what do you guys reckon, Jester?
Jester.
Jester, and Terran Freya Spirit. Freya's
Okay, we got
Spirit.
a race split in here, so that's nice. Top rookie is Zerg.
Please tell us we got a Zerg in there. Yes, we did. Top rookie is Zerg. I thought they were.
And Freya Spirit, I've seen doing some pretty cool stuff. They're the person who made the what do you call it? The
Match
script thing. Yeah, the map.
Yes,
script.
that was really awesome.
I don't know what to call that. We literally don't even have a word. It's such a cool new idea.
The Freya
that
script,
was really
I guess.
cool, and
and they're going to be casting, as I understand it, as well. So look out for that.
So I look forward to hopefully seeing them get out of it.
Now, no casting your own games. I don't know why I put top rookie as unknown race, because even when I brought this slide up, I'm like, no, they're Zerg, aren't they? Like, I knew that somehow. And Maverick, do we know? Do we have in chat a hero? No, we don't.
I can search it up on Discord.
Sure. I mean, I don't know anything about the skills of these players, though. So as far as I'm concerned, this is anyone's group. Do you guys know anything I don't?
I'm not.
No, I have no idea. I would give Freya a little bit of an advantage just because if they've taken the time to learn how to make a script, they've probably played the game a little bit.
True, that's a good point. They're very active in the community, which is a good sign, right? Oh, yeah, okay, right then. Let's move on to Group I. Finally, I have all the races in one of them. We have Balance as the Zerg, Nice Pants as the Zerg, Justino as the Protoss, and Camodaz as the Zerg. So Justino lost in a sea of Protoss. Will he make it out? Now, Justino, don't you go trying too hard, alright? I'm gonna have to flame you.
Josino's been in the chat, doing well.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching either Josino completely cheese their way out of this group or just hold Infinity 3 Hatch Hydras. Either way, it'll be a victory for Protoss.
Oh, it's gonna be brutal.
Josino...
It's gonna be brutal. Okay, and well, what about the skill level, guys? Like, I only know Justino here. I'd say, he's pretty experienced. Do you guys know any of the other players? Camodaz played in CPL,
I have no
right?
idea. Nice Pants played, I think, in CPL. Don't quote me on that, but my brain says that.
Well, this could be a bit of a strong group, it seems like. I don't know about Balance, though.
Yeah.
All pretty experienced. Alright, so move on to Group J. We have Snow97 as the Protoss, Control as the Zerg, Berry Go Round as the Protoss, and Packrat himself as the Zerg. I believe Snow97 is also Snow Dude. Is that the same person? I could be wrong about that.
I'm not sure.
Pretty sure it's the same person. So I think they actually played Zerg at one point, but have since changed.
Okay, I'm adding another person to the possible list of finalists. Berry Go Round is a 1700 Zerg, if I remember correctly. 1600
Yes.
Zerg.
So definitely scary.
That's terrifying.
Are you writing down your predictions so later you can be like, hey, Lise, look at this. Look at these people. I told you.
I am. Yeah.
Snowdude confirms that is indeed him.
Packrat, you take him down. All on him with your Zerglings, please. I request it. Even though he was on my team last time, he doesn't need to tear his way through this tournament.
All right then. So, Barry, your own favorite for that group.
I do know Control though, and I will just say, be prepared for some fun builds.
Oh my god, I remember that. Yes,
that sounds
okay.
exciting.
Good memories.
I can't wait. All right, Group K. We have Arcade plus the Terran, Sidon as the Zerg, oh, I can't read that. Kanukov as the Protoss, and Voila Accountant, aka the Bug, as Zerg. So finally, a group where you can play every race.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know any of these people.
Me either. Sidon rings a bell. I thought they played in CPL, but to be honest, I thought they were a Protoss, so might be a different person. They might just switch into Zerg. I don't know. Well, this is the mystery group. It's the rainbow group. It has all the colors too, so I'm keen.
Yeah.
Hope for some fun games.
Alright, last but not least, we have Group L. Jackie Decker, a race unknown, Shaggy Kiwi Protoss, SC Milan Zerg, and Gerthang Protoss. I'm pretty sure Gerthang played in CPL, so there you go. That's another CPL one.
Gerthang is
I
quite
think
good.
he's
He was at DreamHack Montreal. He's like he was at the time like a 1400, 1500 Protoss, but he doesn't play that much, so he could totally be back down in the range where this is reasonable.
Sure, but he has the potential to improve again quickly, right?
Yep.
I believe he's an RSL veteran, right? He played last season.
Yes.
Oh, ooh, well, you know, how many seasons does it take before you're too good and, you know, you're not even allowed to play it? Is Shaggy Kiwi actually from New Zealand? I don't think he is. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's not. I'll be real embarrassed if he actually is, though. But I'm pretty sure it's just, he has a kiwi fruit as his icon, so he's actually not. I don't know, I could be wrong. I don't know him that well. Alright, well that's all our groups. And I believe that's going to be it for our stream today. So, we'll
Can
have
I plug my...
Yeah, you plug first then, go on.
Okay, fair enough. Well, in the next 4 hours, there will be an announcement on half a dozen StarCraft servers about my for fun's sake team league, the clan league that we're starting up. Yes, you heard that correctly. The acronym is FFSCL. The basic idea is just a clan league with people from 1800 to minimum MMR who can play fun, relaxed games without the I'm not keeping track of scores, that kind of thing. And that allows for some sillier builds and matchups and things. Specifically, I'm excited to perfect my stove. So it should be a fun one, and so everybody look out for that.
All right then, that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. So we will have some casts going soon. I'm not going to give you a specific day yet, but before too long, since there are so many games, especially in the group stages, what's probably going to happen, we're going to try and pick you know, highlights. I can't speak for the other casters, but I definitely will be trying to do that. So if you have a game that you feel like is worth casting, and you know, not just one you smashing your opponent, please, like a back and forth game, feel free to DM me or just at me in general or whatever and let me know. And if I collect a bunch of them, I'll probably do like a highlights cast of the group stage. I'm not limited in the Discord for those of you who don't know. Kraazy, you got anything to plug?
Nothing to plug. I would just say, you know,
Plug the
don't be
Goliath
afraid.
build?
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
You got a lot of experienced people around that are, you know, definitely willing to help people learn and try and grow as players. So don't be afraid to go into the help servers and ask close replays, you know, ask for analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people who are keen to help for sure. And you know, you can just have practice games as well if there's people of your own level. And of course, if you want higher than your level, you can always ask on the CPL Discord or Foreign Brood War, what have you. Alright, well, this has been RSL4. Best of luck to everyone playing, and thanks everyone for tuning into the stream.